Welcome back. Now, some sweet news for the sugar industry. There's no hike in the sugar tax. But on a sour note, or rather sour note for the wine sector, prices have increased by between 9 and 31 cents per bottle. There was no relief announced for farmers hit with increasing production costs due to blackouts, and a large part of the agricultural budget will be spent on land reform. So let's get some reaction to this from Agri SA Executive Director Christo Van Der Rheede. Christo, thank you for your time. Always a pleasure talking to you on all things agri. So your reaction to Minister, that's eNCA's budget speech yesterday?
There's a number of positives, and we really welcome the tax incentives, the rebates, also the expansion of the diesel rebate to the manufacturing side. And I think to a certain extent that will bring some relief to the sector, because many farmers, they obviously their key focus is primary production, but many of them have their own slaughterhouses, their own processing plants and so forth. And that's where the food is then prepared and processed for consumption by consumers out there. And then I think what is we're very happy with is the fact that infrastructure is also a big focus, and it will be funded, especially water infrastructure, road infrastructure, harbours, but also the expansion of certain water irrigation systems, especially in areas where there's huge potential for agricultural development. So overall, the positives are there, but there's also a couple of negatives. I think the sugar industry, as well as some of the other industries, such as the wine industry, although the excise duty has been increased, but it wasn't that much. So it's relatively still under control.
Christo, when we look at the land bank and also look at efforts with which the land bank tries to make in terms of offering loans and financial assistance to farmers, we understand that Treasury have set aside now 5 billion rand for the bank. Is this a good development for farmers, for the bank as well, those needing assistance, because we know those rains at this time also posing quite a challenge and a threat to farmers?
Yeah. A land bank plays a critical role in the development of any sector. The land bank played a major role pre-1994 in the development of white commercial farmers. And then the land bank really went through all kinds of struggles. They've got a very good CEO at this point in time, also a new board, and they've they've turned the tide, so to speak. And I think it's just good that government also supports them. I think the 5 billion will help them to ease the pressure on their liabilities, and also put confidence back into the bank, because, as you all know, they really struggled to pay the creditors at one stage. But we want to see a more consolidated effort. And I cannot emphasize this more than enough. But you cannot develop, especially new farmers, and especially black farmers, you cannot develop them through a fragmented approach. A bit of money there, a bit of money there. You must bring all of these funds together. You must make sure that there's a good process that is being put in place to ensure that these farmers are helped and that they are monitored, and that the money that you give them is well spent. Because ultimately, this money that you spend via the land bank or via other institutions must ensure food security. Yeah. It's no use. We dish out vouchers left, right, and center, but that money is not used for food production, because then it becomes a fruitless exercise.
Yeah, and speaking of spending, I suppose the same when it comes to the 7.8 billion rand, which has been allocated over the medium term, money intended for, amongst others, managing biosecurity, increasing agricultural production, and managing natural resources. This, he says, will be allocated to the Department of Land Reform and Rural Development to monitor.
Biosecurity is one of the most critical issues. Because we've seen massive outbreaks of foot and mouth, which has led to a ban of our wool exports, a ban on our meat exports. We've also seen outbreak of swine fever, as also other diseases and pests. And if we don't manage that properly, if we don't guard our borders to ensure that food that is being, or agricultural produce that is being brought in from other countries are not properly checked, and that those products are clear from any pest or diseases, then we're going to have a major problem in South Africa, because not only are we compromised the health and safety of consumers out there, but we also compromise the entire agriculture sector and also the fiscus, because it's through exports that we earn foreign exchange. It's through exports that we create more jobs, and we need to protect that at all costs. So we welcome that money that's being made available for that purpose, the money that's being made available for land reform. Land reform is critical, but we must ensure that land reform favors people that are willing to farm and that can really utilize the land for food production at the end of the day.
Yeah, and just before I let you go, obviously, you know, the energy crisis being a big focus here. Christo, a huge amount being allocated, over 250 billion rand to, you know, Eskom over the next 3 years, the minister said, to address the energy crisis. We've seen the impact of that on farmers. A good sign for you in the right direction?
Indeed. I think we welcome all of the incentives, the tax incentives. As I've said earlier, the expansion of the diesel rebate and also this intervention to ensure that Eskom is put back on track. But I think what is more important for us is there must be a more aligned process, or better alignment between all of the various departments that have a say over Eskom. But also Eskom must be empowered with the right people, and ensure that the new CEO receives the political backing, because without the political backing and political support, we foresee serious challenges for a new CEO.
We'll leave it there. Agri SA Executive Director Christo Van Der Rheede, thank you so much for your time this morning and speaking to us.